extraordinary crimes against pop culture and fandom have to be avenged by agents extraordinary. One such agent is Erod, codename the Blockbuster Buster.
What the hell is the deal with the polka-dotted blue pastel umbrella? John Steed never carried anything like this. Well, I have to admit, it's got good balance. But if you don't mind, I'll stick to what I know. Greetings, fanboys and fangirls. I'm Erod and I'm the Blockbuster Buster. I guarantee you that nowadays, when you hear the title Avengers, the first thing that you think of is Marvel's ultra-popular superhero team. But the fact of the matter is that long before the creation of Marvel's resident catsuit-wearing super spy, and before Marvel's mightiest heroes ever assembled, there was already a team of super smooth British spies that carried that title, and also had a catsuit-wearing vixen among them, cause extraordinary crimes must be avenged by agents extraordinary, the Avengers. In fact, in Britain, Marvel's The Avengers was retitled Avengers Assemble to avoid confusion. Now let me take you back to the swinging 60s, where the spy genre had taken pop culture by storm. We had James Bond, In Like Flint, Mission Impossible, The Man from U.N.C.L.E., hell, even Doctor Who took on more of a spy theme. And yet The Avengers, which was intended as a light-hearted tongue-in-cheek spoof of the spy genre, made it to our television screens first. The show followed the adventures of singular agents who would take on the most bizarre cases that would threaten the British Empire. Initially, the show focused on Dr. David Keel, played by Ian Henry. But Mr. Henry left the show after the first season, so the lead role went to his partner, the dashing, debonair, quick-witted John Steed, played by the legendary Patrick Macnee, known for his trademark bowler hat, always carrying an umbrella, and for his impressive fencing skills. To many, John Steed serves as the template to all modern spies in fiction. Steed had several gorgeous assistants throughout the show, more notably Kathy Gale and Tara King. But his most popular partner, and the one who is most associated with the show, and one of my personal nostalgic hotties, was Emma Peel, as played by Diana Rigg. While Steed was the epitome of traditional British class, Mrs. Peel represented the modern 60s youth culture, with her sexy catsuit, her free spirit, and her amazing martial arts skills. And by amazing, I mean it's amazing that any of these moves were effective. I mean, let's face it, Captain Kirk was a more legit martial artist than her. But it was a low-budget 60s show, so you had to forgive it. And the enjoyment of the show was not in the action, but in the chemistry between these two iconic characters. When I heard that Warner Brothers was making a big-budget adaptation of The Avengers, I couldn't wait to see it. But soon thereafter, news started to get out of script rewrites, production delays, and one of the most disastrous test screenings in Warner Brothers history. One that was so bad that it prompted the famed studio to delay the movie from its original coveted June release date. So, without further ado, let's take a look at this thing, so I can avenge the Avengers. So our movie begins with our bowler hat brandishing bastion of badassery, John Steed, as played by Joseph Fiennes. Good choice. As he takes his morning constitutional when suddenly, everything tries to kill him! Die, motherfucker, die, motherfucker, die! 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 Oh, nuns with guns! Nuns with guns! Seriously, no nuns with guns? Well, that's disappointing. So obviously, the whole thing turns out to be a training course that Steed gets through with high marks all around. But it still doesn't compare to the all-time record holder.
I'm sure our little dramatization has demonstrated how Darkwing Duck's unique methods put our own shush procedures to shame.
So an experimental weather control system called Project Prospero has been stolen. So the Ministry Superiors, Mother, played by Jim Broadbent, and Father, played by Fiona Shaw, call in John Steed to investigate the theft. but they insist that he worked with the creator of Project Prospero, Mrs. Emma Peel, played by Uma Thurman. Good choice. So Mrs. Peel goes to meet with Steed at a gentleman's club.
I'm afraid that's impossible. You are female.
The two finally meet in the most awkward of situations, with Steed sitting naked in a steam room. But in staying true to their characters, the two maintain the utmost decorum in spite of the explicit sensuality of their current situation.
So what was all this? Some sort of test?
Congratulations. You've entered a bastion of male privilege. You're not someone who plays by the rules, Doctor.
Rules are made to be broken.
And I have to give credit where credit is due. Fiennes and Thurman nailed Mrs. Peel and Steed's trademark stigmathea. It's a rhythmic exchange of witty one-liners. Go read a book.
You're a lady of hidden talents, Mrs. Peel.
They're sparring! That's what they did on the show when they first met!
A little more flexibility in the wrist.
Not enough flexibility in the wrist.
Nice. So now that the Avengers have assembled, they go to meet with Mother, who reveals that the chief suspect for sabotaging Project Prospero and potentially stealing it is none other than Mrs. Peel. Now I know what you're thinking. If they have video evidence of Mrs. Peel committing the theft, then why don't they just arrest her? Well, this is one of the first of many things that made more sense in the original version, as opposed to the mismatched jumble of insanity that is the final cut of this movie. You see, in the original version, the movie opened with Mrs. Peel working on Project Prospero alongside her late husband and her brother-in-law, Valentine Peel. In this version, Valentine Peel was behind everything. The stealing of the project, the sabotage, and framing Mrs. Peel, because he wanted to send the ministry on a wild goose chase and hold the world for ransom using the weather control device, all the while the ministry was busy chasing after Mrs. Peel. But unfortunately, the mistake that he made was that there was conflicting video evidence, which showed that Mrs. Peel was in two places at once. For this reason, the ministry allows Mrs. Peel to join the investigation. In this version, however, they just show her the footage without being sure whether or not she's the real Mrs. Peel. They ask her to investigate on their behalf, and she says, okay.
This doesn't make a lick of sense.
As it turns out, a company called Wonderland Weather miraculously develops the same weather control technology right after Project Prospero was destroyed. So Steed and Mrs. Peel are dispatched to investigate the company's founder, Sir August de Winter, played by Sean Connery. Bond is playing the villain? I see what you did there. So our sexy spies decide to split up. Mrs. Peel will distract Sir August, while Steed searches the grounds. They're splitting up? But wouldn't it be better if they stuck together just in case they ran into trouble? Oh well, Mrs. Peel can handle herself. She's an expert martial artist. I'm sure she will be fine.
Hello?
Whoa!
Peel. Emma Peel.
Bond. James Bond.
Have we met, or is it just the rain that's familiar?
No, it's not creepy at all.
The ratio of protons to ions. Me. The entire microtransmission theory. Me. I did it all. Tea?
Yes, tea sounds lovely. Whatever you say. While Mrs. Peel deals with Sir August the Crazy, Steed continues searching the grounds when he is suddenly attacked by freakish weather.
Is that you, Mrs. Peel?
Suddenly, evil Emma Peel shoots him. Just like that. After a really crappy transition, Steed wakes up naked in Mrs. Peel's flat, without any kind of concern over the fact that, as far as he knows, the woman tending to him just shot him in the chest a few moments ago. Nope, I still have no idea why this is the superior cut to this movie. So the Avengers decide to investigate Wonderland weather instead. Unfortunately, the heads of the company are in the middle of a board meeting, and they can't spare a moment to answer our heroes' questions. Now, before we go into the board meeting scene, believe it or not, there is something severely wrong with this scene. But not only am I gonna give each and every one of you the chance to spot this mistake, but I'm also going to have professional heckler Garfield watch the scene with us and see if he can spot this particular scene's subtle snafu.
Welcome to Wonderland Weather, here in our London headquarters.
See any mistakes yet?
I don't see anything wrong either.
Now allied with our colleagues from Brawley, together we will make history.
How many mistakes did you spot?
Everything looks normal to me.
Absolute loyalty, absolute obedience.
Wait! There! Did you see it? Okay, I'm gonna show it again. This time pay close attention and you might see the mistake. See, in this frame, all the pamphlets on the table are jet black. And in this frame, they're onyx. Sloppy production design, I tell ya. It takes a keen eye to spot these inconsistencies.
On behalf of the management of this show, I would like to say how embarrassed we are about these mistakes. What? No, you're wrong. There were no other mistakes in the show. Come on, boy, it's 10 a.m. Time for a midnight snack.
After finding the dead bodies of two of the scientists who worked on Project Prospero, Steed and Mrs. Peel have all the proof that they need to go after Sir August. So they split up. Again! Last time you split up, Mrs. Peel was almost molested, and Steed got shot in the chest. If it hadn't been for his armor-plated vest, he would be dead right now. So guys, splitting up is just not a very good—
I'll take the high road.
And I'll take the low road.
Oh, forget it. So Steed runs into some goons in an alley. Eddie Izzard? Why not?
That was a very silly thing.
Oh, no you didn't. So Mrs. P... I'm sorry. Apparently it's time for a PSA.
I was like, what goes on in the botanical gardens? He's like, drop bears. So what's a drop bear? He's like, you know what a koala is? I was like, yeah. He's going, is that a drop bear? I said, he goes, no. Imagine a koala on crystal meth. That is a drop bear. I was like, really? Get the fuck out of here. I've never heard of that. He's like, yeah, it's only in the botanical gardens, man. I was like, is that right? He's like, yeah, so many trees, and you just never know. They just come out of nowhere like, ah! And just land on you and bite. And they bite and run away. And I was like, get out of here. How big are they? He's like, they're small like koalas. They're cute, but vicious.
So after that bit of educational info, Steed finally sees the two Mrs. Peels side by side, confirming that there is an imposter running around, and that she is a furry. I knew it! The Avengers go straight to Sir August's mansion. And since the direct approach didn't work last time, the bad guys decide to do a little subcontracting in order to stop the Avengers. Waspinators! Lots of them!
Insects. Bigger every year.
Predacons! Attack! Waspinator in pain, but still functional. Oh no! Waspinator in trouble!
On the the move and running out of options, the Avengers are saved by the most badass granny ever.
Would you please be so kind as to hit the ground, if it's not too much trouble? I hope he was a baddie.
She reminds me of my granny. Oh, interesting fact. The role of the gun-toting granny was originally intended to be a cameo for the original Emma Peel, Diana Rigg. Fortunately, she was smart enough to turn down the role. Nonetheless, the gun-toting granny is a great addition to the team. They are definitely gonna catch Sir August, as long as they don't split up. Damn it! Stop splitting up! You're the Avengers, not the Scooby Gang! Of course, now that they're isolated, Sir August gets the drop on them, capturing Mrs. Peel and taking on Steed one-on-one.
A man with an umbrella is a man praying for rain.
And a man without one is a fool.
Wow, that is some crappy banter.
Rain or shine, all is might.
One way or another, Steed is an expert swordsman. Sir August is going down. And on top of that, he just leaves Steed laying there. He's not even going to try and kill one of the people who is most likely to foil his plan. The longer I watch this movie, the stupider the characters get. I wonder what he wanted Mrs. Peel for.
I'll take the rapists for 200.
That's therapist.
Oh, thank God. Now, for those of you who are wondering why there's a date rape scene in the middle of what was originally intended to be a big-budget, action-packed, fun summer blockbuster, well, this is yet another thing that made more sense in the original version. You see, back when Valentine was the villain, it was revealed that his motivation for stealing Project Prospero and trying to take over the Empire was his jealousy towards his brother, his jealousy towards his brother's invention, and his brother's sexy catsuit-wearing wife. In this scene, it is revealed that in spite of Valentine's ruthlessness, he still doesn't have the heart to kill Emma, because he's so madly in love with her. But without that backstory, Sean Connery, one of the smoothest, coolest actors of all time, just comes off as an old creepy pervert.
Suck on it, Trebek. Suck it long and suck it hard.
So while Sir August goes to answer the door, Mrs. Peel makes a run for it.
Wow, now this is fantastic.
I'm not sure we want to pay for a dimension we're not going to use.
That's okay, Mrs. Peel. John Steed will swing in any moment and save you. Oh, just save yourself, honey. The Avengers regroup at John Steed's flat this time, when suddenly...
Steve.
Unnecessary close-up! Unnecessary close-up! The Ministry is sick of waiting for results, so they show up to arrest Mrs. Peel, as she is their only suspect. Steed quickly heads to the Ministry archives to find evidence of Mrs. Peel's innocence. All the while, Father interrogates Mrs. Peel.
It'll help pass the time.
Time would pass anyway if you think about it logically. But then so few do think logically or even anti-logically, clockwise or anti-clockwise, tick-tock, tock, tick, seesaw, Montreal, it amounts to the same thing.
Say it with me now. This is yet another thing that made more sense in the original version, where Valentine not only framed Mrs. Peel, but he made her question her sanity by not only making her doppelganger attack her from time to time, but also by appearing to her in the guise of her late husband, making our favorite catsuit-wearing super scientist slowly go crazy. Here, from one scene to the other, she goes full-on Frank Miller.
Boobies.
Steed finally makes it to the archives, where the Invisible Man works. Why not?
Oh, hello. Brenda told me to expect you, Steve.
Wait a minute. That voice is suave and sophisticated, yet flirtatious and reassuring. Oh my God, it's Patrick Macnee, the original actor who played John Steed in the Avengers! Wait a minute, if they have Patrick Macnee on staff, and he's invisible, why doesn't he just go after Sir August on his own?
Easy, Alan. Skinner, I want you dressed at all times, or it's my butt up your arse.
At least he tried. So Steed finally finds the evidence that he needs to absolve Mrs. Peel. In fact, he finds too much evidence. Not only is the Ministry responsible for cloning Mrs. Peel. Oh, in the original version, she was a robot duplicate. Never mind, that sounds equally as stupid. But he also finds out that Father was working in conjunction with Sir August all along, and that the Ministry already knows the location of Project Prospero. If you knew all this, why didn't you tell anyone?
Well, nobody ever asked.
That was really stupid.
So Father and the Emma clone try to get away with Mrs. Peel on a hot air balloon for some reason. Alright, Steed, all you have to do is shoot the grappling hook hidden inside your umbrella, climb the rope, karate chop Father in the neck. Well, that was really nice of the bad guys to crash the balloon and kill themselves. Very considerate, saves the Avengers a lot of time.
I wonder,
No, no, no. Steed and Mrs. Peel never kiss. They flirt a lot, but never kiss. Steed is a gentleman, and Mrs. Peel still believes her husband to be alive. So what possible reason could this movie have to allow this?
I needed proof that you were definitely Mrs. Peel.
I really hate this movie. So Sir August makes an unscheduled appearance in front of the World Council, as his weather machine wreaks havoc on London. And he just confesses to being the one behind it all. He didn't send a ransom letter, he didn't appear on a video screen, he physically walks into the room and confesses. I would question why nobody bothers to shoot him, tase him, or arrest him, but this is the movie with robo-wasps, a clone, and an invisible man. So hey, who gives a shit? So the Avengers head over to Sir August's lair, using their standard issue inflatables. Big whoop. James Bond has one of those. Didn't he once use the same thing to get on Blofeld's ship? So Mrs. Peel finally wears her trademark catsuit in an effort to pass herself off as her evil counterpart. And she even knows the secret password to gain entry into his lair.
Allow me.
How now, round cow?
Welcome.
And how does she know this? There was a scene in the movie where John Steed observed the clone do just that.
How now, brown cow?
This is how they would know the entrance and the password. But guess what? This scene was cut out of the movie, in spite of the fact that it was featured in every single trailer for this movie. Now, I would question why such a vital scene was cut out of the movie, but the fact of the matter is that the whole charade of passing herself off as the clone is pointless, since Sir August already knows that they are coming. Now, let me guess. Their brilliant strategy from stopping Sir August de Winter from taking over the world with his weather machine is to split up! God, I hate this movie. So Mrs. Peel goes to deactivate Project Prospero, as Steed faces off against Sir August on his own.
Steed. John Steed.
Bond. James Bond.
Now, since the weather machine is the key to Sir August's plan, you'd figure it'd be better guarded, right? But no, it's just Eddie Izzard on a wire guarding the thing by himself. Well, at least we're finally gonna get to see Mrs. Peel's amazing martial arts skills, which were sorely lacking in the TV series. But this is a big-budget blockbuster movie. We can at least count on some kick-ass fight choreography, right?
Oh, fuck.
My sentiment exactly, Eddie. So Steed goes to fight Sir August. Oh, no you didn't.
You'll pay for that.
Now watch out, John. He is a Highlander.
There can be only one.
You know, the Highlander thing was just a joke. So Sir August is conveniently dispatched. Mrs. Peel stops the weather machine, the bad guy's lair explodes for no good reason, the day is saved, and the Avengers survive to drink tea another day. Ugh. This movie's a vengeful vagrant of vile villainy. All the right ingredients are there. A good cast, good crew, big budget, and yet it's all ruined by very, very poor execution. In fact, many industry experts use this movie as an example of how a big budget studio movie can go very, very wrong. This movie bombed so hard that its combined failure with the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was one of many reasons that prompted Sean Connery to retire. This final cut of the movie is such an incoherent jumble of scenes that even if you are familiar with the original script, there are still moments that make no sense. If you're a hardcore fan of the original Avengers, it's definitely worth the watch, as you will appreciate all the subtle nods to the original series. But if you've never heard of the Avengers, then stay away, cause this is one horrible introduction to the franchise. The original show was similar in a lot of ways to the classic Doctor Who series. While it might be low budget, the show makes up for that through the writing and the acting. It's the kind of classic show that you watch and think to yourself, if this had a bigger budget, it would be perfect. For that reason, like Doctor Who, I'm hoping that the BBC will one day do a revamp or a reboot of the series, with Michael Fassbender as John Steed and Michelle Ryan as Emma Peel. Oh yeah. But for now, that's just hopeful thinking from an old school fanboy. Now if you excuse me, I have a mission to complete. It's time for me to give you a proper send-off. Avengers style.